It's really great to see everyone. It's been a rather rainy 2 months here in LA, so this is a shockingly good situation. So, but it's going to be even better here in a moment once we get to talking. I'm Wes, one of the partners at March, and I've spent the better part of the past 30 years in deploying analytics and AI into large organizations as an entrepreneur. And now I'm at March helping others do that. And it's a pleasure to have this panel together. I think this is one of the most exciting areas I can think of because every company is trying to figure it out. Everyone's trying to do more with less. We have more data and we have more computing power, more analytic juice than we've ever had. And it's all starting to happen right now. So a quote I used this morning in the LP meeting was, from Hemingway. It says, change is slow and then it happens fast. And I think we're seeing that happening in this space right now. So today is we're eager to talk about what's happening in the enterprise. How is all this chatter about technology and AI and data coming to life to solve real world problems? That's really I like to think about things in a very matter-of-fact way. Like, how does this actually matter? Does this actually make money for companies, for clients, and so forth? So why don't we just go down the line and just do quick introductions and just give everyone a sense of why we've assembled this panel.
Yeah, happy to start. My name is Tasso. I'm founder CEO of Action IQ. And what we do is we help large enterprises use customer data to drive better experience for their end customers, their end consumers. So customer experience, but in a very personalized, data-centric way.
I'm Umesh Sachdev, founder and CEO of Unifor. We're a conversational AI and data platform for enterprises. We apply AI as a co-pilot to the entire customer front office of an enterprise. We work with over 1,500 enterprises around the world, including a customer on the panel. We're a portfolio company of March and NEA.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm Andy Marcus. I'm the Chief Data Officer at AT&T. So at AT&T, right, we're on a journey to integrate, data and AI into the fabric of what we do. Like every part of the business, not just the Chief Data Office. We're in the middle of a huge transformation. We're, delivering really incredible value to the business using data and AI. And we're, creating, standards on how we operate in a very large company, with the most current technology available. So glad to be part of the panel.
And I'm Hillary Kopla-McAdams. I'm a venture partner with NEA, and I invest in enterprise technologies, a lot in the front office space that these gentlemen are focused on. I happen to be a board member at Unifor. I spent the bulk of my career as an operator at Salesforce, New Relic, Intuit, and Oracle Corporation.
Great, so we're done. Thank you, that was fantastic. No, so maybe we start at the top of the food pyramid here, Andy, if you don't mind.
Top or bottom, I'm not sure.
No, you're the top of the food. Trust me, you're the top of the food pyramid. You're the people you represent the people that are trying to figure this out, trying to bring this stuff to life in enterprises. Are fighting internal as well as external battles, dealing with budget issues. How do you prioritize? Like when you're building this technology stack to A, maybe describe what you're trying to build and why, and then B, like how do you prioritize, particularly in kind of the crazy environment that we are in economically?
Yeah, no, really good question. I mean, from a prioritization perspective, I mean, we take everything through the lens of a business case. And at AT&T, when we invest $1 in AI, I expect at least a 3x return on that dollar. And that's not hard, right? With a company of the size and scale of AT&T, we should deliver well more than 3x. We look across the company at the AI use cases that we execute. My team, the Chief Data Office, does a lot of it, but we've done a lot since I've been at AT&T to really democratize the ability to create and leverage AI across the company. Last year, we looked at the value that we drove with AI in the last 12 months, and it was $2.5 billion. And it's not just cost efficiencies. We need a lot of cost efficiencies, but it's revenue too. Our team was accountable for about 50% of that, but the best news story is in the last couple of years, we've got that democratized across the company, so we have real value being created with the network team, with the field team, with the care team, with marketing, with even the finance team. So, our view of AI, right, it's not just for the data scientists, right? It's for every part of the company to really think and reimagine how we run the business.
So it's the generation of revenue. How do you apply automation? And I use automation as an umbrella term, which includes things like AI or machine learning and robotics or those other things. But you're talking really about AI. But we're talking about revenue for generating marketing, for communications, for churn prediction, probably for usage and upgrades and pricing and billing, and probably customer support, probably hopefully network outages and things like that. Is that true? Is all those things?
All the above. Robocall suppression. I mean, who loves robocalls? If you do, raise your hand. But I mean, we've made incredible progress in the last 12 months on using AI and using graph to really find the root of the issue and suppress it, right? And so when I talk about the value of the use case, if it's not 3x, we don't touch it. And the higher the ROI, the more we lean in towards it. So that's how we prioritize.
Yeah. And also the need to make sure that you're getting the proper credit from a P&L contribution standpoint, as opposed to this being a cost center. I mean, that's really important, right? I mean,
it is, and I think a lot of that is the partnership we have across the business. I view our team as a support team. Maybe we're like the offensive line, right? On the offense, we may not throw the touchdown and get, but we help, enable that play. And I think the partnership was so key, right? Because we don't really care if we get the recognition from a dollar perspective.
Yes.
Just that we have the runway to continue to help the business do what we need to do.
That's great. I know, and Hillary, we both are recovering operators, so
Right.
it might be worth getting your perspective on this too, because you've had to deal with this, and now you're doing it from an investor standpoint.
Yeah, I think, one thing I would say is a weak economy is a great time to bring change to an organization. People are remarkably more open-minded when they're constrained, and particularly when all the headlines are negative, people are less willing to fight for every dollar and tend to embrace new technologies. So as both an operator and an executive leading companies that were scaling very quickly, and often in moments of inefficiency, these downturns created a lot of efficiency, and it sounds like at AT&T, thank you for the robocall prevention.
Yes, thank you.
The same is true, but getting people bought in to change. As a provider of solutions, the best growth years in my early stage companies were during economic downturns, because customers were much more open-minded to novel solutions, and they weren't thinking incrementally anymore. And so, the hard work is aligning the humans. Andy, you didn't talk about that too much, but I find the hard work is getting the human beings to feel not threatened by change, but embracing change, and feeling there's a reward at the end of the road that represents change. So I don't know if you have any comments on that.
No, absolutely. I mean, getting alignment, like, we're talking about the core things that allow this to happen. Alignment in a company of 170,000 people, that this is the right architecture to execute AI across the company, that's hard.
Yeah.
Maybe that's harder than actually doing some of the work. So I think you're spot on.
And perhaps if I feel my job might go away, it's even harder because people resist. It might be a topic that our CEOs can talk about.
No, yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting now to hear. Now that you understand what our clients are grappling with. How are you dealing?
Yeah, not us and us.
I mean, you're creating the fundamental, the foundational technology needed. You want to talk about that? What you're solving for?
Yeah.
At Action IQ?
I mean, fundamentally, my background, I'm a data guy, right? So what am I doing, in application CX? The answer is that we think fundamentally customer experience is broken, and in order to fix it, you need data and AI, right? That's kind of the fundamental thesis for Action IQ. And so it's almost like when we started off when we started the company, we thought we had to create something that's half application for the business, half a very sophisticated data platform, bring it together to help solve the problem. But going back to the points, which I think were great, first of all, even though we sell the technology, we never forget that we're here to help our customers make money. And the way we help our customers make money is by retaining more of their customers, right? Help with retention, or help acquire new customers with a much lower cost. So, one of our clients, Bloomberg Media, that just came out and said that we help them reduce the cost of acquiring a new subscriber by 76%, which is a huge reduction, right? It would probably pass your 3x test. And on the flip side, we help many of our customers, especially in a down market, retain more of the consumers, which usually in a tough market economy, right, they're likely to flee a lot of the brands, even brands they're loyal to. There's another element also, which is we had 10 years of growth and excess, and in my view, that created a proliferation of companies that are more products or features than real companies. And so being a customer data platform, we see an opportunity to help consolidate a bunch of technologies or vendors that are more features than companies and implement a lot of use cases in Action IQ that essentially replaces a lot of things that were hanging around just because capital was cheap, right? Not because they had the fundamental place into the architecture of a big enterprise. So I'm very excited about the use cases, which I think are even more important in a down market, and also for this opportunity to help consolidate the customer experience stack, which is very fragmented.
Yeah, it's a mess.
And so we're very excited to see what the next couple of years will bring for us.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I think that's a perfect segue into once you help these companies with acquisition and then cross-selling, then when they start to call customer support and they want to have a positive experience across all touch points, that's really what Uniphore is focused on, and the application and automation of that customer experience. How do you bring that to life?
Yeah, so I guess that's the theme that we're all talking about, starting with Andy from his lens as a giant enterprise looking at adopting AI to automate various parts of the business. Uniphore focuses on the entire front office, customer support, front-end sales, etc. But one of the things that it's important to acknowledge, the economic downturn is helping, there's motivated buyers, there's a lot of new innovation, startups, investors, but there's a natural friction point in this. We're moving from this hype cycle to massive adoption, and the friction point is this, that a lot of people don't understand AI is not ready for a true SaaS business model, and here's why. Unlike a SaaS software, which is a CRM, etc., when you turn the lights on, you know what to expect. AI requires a lot of data preparation. Then there's a lot of data learning. You put it to action, and then there's reinforcement feedback to make that AI better. So unlike other forms of SaaS software that buyers and vendors have been used to as an ecosystem, AI innovations, whether it's customer data platform or customer support, requires baseline preparation on the part of the enterprise. So from Andy's point of view, getting 170,000 people aligned on a certain platform may not be easy. So he might say, let's start in a division. We work with Cricket and AT&T. That's how we got in, because it was this easy, fast-moving division. But the underlying infrastructure is common. So even to start a small pilot in a small area of the enterprise, that preparation needs to happen. So in general, what I've seen, forward-moving enterprise, people who are moving past that problem, they have the right expectation. What to expect from these software when they bring in, there's preparedness. Do we have the base infrastructure, data observability, data pipeline? Do we have data available? Because AI is nothing without data in any part of the business. And finally, what I've seen, it's taken, we work with over 1,500 large enterprises around the world, telecom, banking, etc. I've seen it takes one extremely motivated executive who's willing to push the buttons in the system because they truly believe in the outcome, 3x ROI or whatever be the outcome, to make that happen. And Andy and I promise an outcome of this panel is going to be a massive deal is going to happen at AT&T with AI becoming part of their entire front office customer support. Right, Andy?
Yes.
I love that.
How do you see this coming to life? Do you feel like with the market headwinds or tailwinds that this is getting easier to deploy within companies? Are you finding that there's more of an appetite right now or less because of
I'd say 100%. I founded the company in 2008. Over the last 15 years, we've seen dramatic shift in the appetite to innovate, the appetite to adopt. There's a lot more understanding, case studies, executives, when they move around from company to company, they've seen success in one part of an industry and they're trying to replicate it in another. Vendors have become smarter. Data ecosystems have become smarter. There's this promise of synthetic curated data. Not everything needs to be organically had from the enterprise. A new industry has come about where synthetic data is becoming available for AI providers like ActionIQ or Unifor to consume and very quickly, in a very short time to value, deploy the value proposition to the enterprise and have that evidence of 3x ROI. So the whole ecosystem, buyer maturity, seller maturity, vendor maturity, is at a level that I have not seen in the last 15 years.
And have you seen, just from a business standpoint, many of us have had to deal with, modulating from hyper growth to profitability and getting that balance right in this new world order that we are in. Is that something that both of you guys have had to deal with?
I think I think that there's an interesting duality here. So, we're talking about, even this morning, we're talking about AI and how it's going to help. And I think it's a question of, is it a feature? Is it a new space? Is it, is it going to be a feature in many companies, or is it going to be new technologies? And I mean, if you look at what has happened so far from the first wave of AI, there haven't been that many startups that benefited directly, right? The people that benefited was the infrastructure, like NVIDIA, right? And I mean, NVIDIA and the clouds, right? AWS, Google Cloud. These were the big benefactors of the first wave of AI, which is a little bit more limited also. This wave of generative AI, I think, is going to be a lot more broadly applicable. We're looking how to integrate in the product to help our users be more creative, right? Help people that maybe they're out of ideas, right? Maybe we have ChatGPT, show them some direction. It's not going to replace the marketer, right? That we're not there yet, but it can serve as an ideation assistant or as a training assistant for our product. And the other thing is, there's going to be a supply chain, and maybe AI will take parts of the supply chain. So we produce highly targeted segments based on data. But what's the content that goes along with it? Can this be auto-generated with AI? Because we can get our customers to a point where they could potentially be running tens of thousands of campaigns at the same time to be hyper-targeted, hyper-personalized. Right. But if they cannot create tens of thousands of pieces of content, they're not going to realize this potential. So I think
Persado fits in, right?
That's where Persado fits in. Exactly. I mean, Persado was like the AI before AI was cool, right? And now, of course, there's newer technologies. I'm sure they're trying to leverage that and do even better. But if you solve the data bottleneck of customer experience, which is what we do, and you pair it up, and you can also solve the content bottleneck, that's where you can get to a true one-to-one personalization. I think that's where we headed. Now, the question is, how far is the point where content can be truly auto-generated, unsupervised? I mean, it's hard to tell, right? But it feels it's getting closer and closer.
What's funny is at the beginning of the 20th century, factories started to incorporate a new role into the executive leadership team called a vice president of electricity. And because it was so novel and new, and they needed to figure out how to bring it to life. And I feel like in many ways, AI is the same thing. We're going to see it, you're going to look back and go, that's silly how we made it this shiny object. It's just going to be ubiquitous in everything we do.
That's right.
But Wes, to your earlier question of growth versus profitability, I don't see it as a versus issue as much as there's this talk of efficient growth. Fundamentally, all of the new age companies, by and large, are on a software as a service subscription business model. And the beauty of the SaaS business model, led by companies like Salesforce back in the day, that playbook is written. It's a very every step of the business model can be measured in efficiency, sales metrics, product metrics, gross margin. So as long as the business is growing and there's demand and customers like Andy, are validating that, we're ready, there's demand for various segments of automation to enter the enterprise, then it's incumbent on the software vendors to drive this growth efficiently. Yeah. High gross margin, 70% plus gross margin, magic number, which is in the 1+ area, sales efficiency, LTV CAC, which is in 1.5, 2 area. So, there's inherent ways in which SaaS can grow efficiently. And as long as that's happening, then it's not a growth versus profitability, because, you can be high growth and turn profitable.
That's right.
With 20-30% free cash flow at a certain scale.
Can I say one more thing on this? If I can be very honest, right? I think it was really hard to do what you're saying in 2020, right? And 2021. And I think someone said, I think it was Jamie Dimon, the JP Morgan CEO, while the music is playing, you have to dance. And I feel that's what happened the last 2 years. Everybody wanted to dance, everybody was dancing. If you didn't dance, you would be left behind. And also the whole ecosystem, I was actually reading Michael Porter's competitive strategy book on the plane here. I had read it many years ago, and he was talking about, the buying power of the supplier determines the profitability of a category, not just a business, but a category. And a tech company, I think, I don't have any suppliers, but I do. Talent is a huge supplier, right? Labor is a huge supplier. Mm-hmm. And when everybody drives salaries up, 20%, 25% year over year, which is what happened the last 3 years, you're either going to pay up or you won't be able to develop new product and you're going to be left behind. So I feel the music was playing, we were all dancing, the music stopped, and you better sit down real quick.
That's right.
Or else you'll be left standing, right? And I'm not sure how else you could have played it, because any other way to do it, it would have risked the business, essentially. Either you would be left behind or you would run out of money, right, post the music stopped not playing anymore. So it was a very hard shift, and you had to adapt, and I think, we're adapting, right? But it was hard to play it in a very different way, even in retrospect.
Definitely. Andy, I'd love to ask about, for all the entrepreneurs in the room here, where are the holes? Like, where are there opportunities or gaps, or where do you see things in the next 5 years that maybe you haven't seen well addressed by, incumbents? And if you say it's a perfect market, everything's solved, that's great. But
no, I think things will, continue to change at hyperspeed and kind of blur. The challenge, we have as a company, and I think everybody sees it, is you have point solutions. How do you stitch this together in a more interoperable way, right? I mean, how do you ensure that you stay, kind of on the cutting edge without getting, tied into a legacy agreement that's hard to get out of, or a legacy technology that's hard to get out of. So I think, being able to change, being able to adapt is really key. I mean, AT&T's, an old company. We have our own share of legacy, tech debt we have to manage. But that's my, charge to our group is to not be in that position again, right? To stay out in front, to stay interoperable, to stay, flexible and nimble on our solution. So I think as solution providers, we have to think about that too, right? It's not, this is the only game in town. It's not, this is the box I'm going to draw around this product or services. It's how do I play with the rest of the ecosystem? And I think that's really important. And
that feeds into the buy, build, partner piece. Like, I mean, is your organization compelled to try to build some of this in-house?
We take that very seriously. One thing I preach to the team is, I don't want to build something that's already a commodity, right? Well, I mean, in a tech world, that sometimes happens. Yeah. But we don't do that, right? So we try to take a best-in-breed approach. Yeah, if we have something out there that truly is best-in-breed, we buy it. Where we have to build it, we build it. I'll give you a really quick example. A couple years ago, feature stores were on the newer side, and AT&T has really intense needs for real time, for speed, delivery to protect our company and our customers from fraud, nothing on the market was there. So we built that, right? And so today, that's probably still the same case, but today we might have more of a decision in the process. But that delivered, an environment for our data scientists where now we have 20,000 of the best features that AT&T has to offer at everyone's fingertips, right? Which really changed the game, right? We're building models much, much faster. Our models are much more performant because they have the best data that AT&T has to offer. But that's where we would build versus buy. But we try to make sure our investments are very balanced. And so if somebody has something that's great to offer, we'll take it.
Yeah, a friend of mine who's the CMO at MasterCard told me that he gets 300 emails or calls a day from vendors trying to meet with him. So we have an over-invested, overpopulated ecosystem that I think will, whose herd will thin here in a little while. But it's not sustainable. So.
By the way, I think that was a zero interest rates phenomenon too. I'm wondering
right.
how much this number will go down now that people cannot afford to hire salespeople that don't sell.
Yeah, no, it's got to. Yeah, Andy has an unlisted number. And hey, Hillary, how about you from an investing standpoint? What have you been looking at that you think as it relates to automating the enterprise, and what's exciting and new trends?
Well, there's been a real evolution over the last, say, 5 years. There were a lot of robotic process automation capabilities that came to bear. There's sort of generation 1 of where AI can be applied and is being applied now. I think our perspective is there are big winners, like NVIDIA was mentioned earlier. There are now software companies that develop GPU-like performant models that have potential to emerge over the next decade. There are the platform companies that we're all reading about. And then we think there's sort of verticalized solutions. So I'd call out Action IQ and Unifor, or a healthcare solution, or a biotech solution that has access to the data. I think that's just incredibly important near term, that you have data you can train, and has the potential to offer a vertical or an industry a holistic solution with the models already built, with intimacy with that data that takes the bias out, that retrains and perfects. And so from our perspective, that's a big winner. The question is, who will win in that category? How do you find them? How do you get Andy to buy the whole suite? Because he says, this is a modern architecture, it's interoperable, it's open, it's safe, and I feel good about it. And so that's one area. And part of what I think all venture capital firms are doing right now is trying to assess what is the winning technical stack underneath these generative AI solutions, and how do you create a moat, right? With ChatGPT available to us all, not much of a moat. So data is the short-term moat, and there'll be other moats that are developed. Typically, I would say that goes back to who's got access to the data. Longer term, there could be synthetic data that serves as a proxy for what is customer data today that you have the right to use to train your models. And that will open up other barriers and make the market even more interesting. But that's really what we're thinking about right now.
Well, where do you think things are headed in the next few years? What's your roadmap look like?
Well, so if the last couple of months is any evidence of where we're headed, it's very exciting. Ever since ChatGPT came out in the news, it's not that generative AI or large language model is new. A lot of AI companies have been working on those technologies for a while, but what it has done is it has made AI a household concept. CEOs are calling their management teams and saying, I don't want to go incremental, I want us to reimagine customer experience, customer support, front office, customer acquisition in this era of AI. Nobody wants to be left behind. So, for Unifor, the last couple of months has been a major marketing event without us having to spend on it, because everyone's reading about ChatGPT and they want more of AI. Like Hillary said, what this is likely to do is AI moves from will happen, nice to happen, a future category, to now it's here and now. So all the disruption in various parts of the enterprise. Andy and you just said, every part of an enterprise like AT&T is ripe for an AI-led automation, AI-led disruption. And the future is going to be, there are going to be these large infrastructure providers, which are the Googles of the world, Microsoft with their investment in OpenAI, Amazon will have a play. But there's going to be a lot of deep vertical AI players, Unifor included, ActionIQ included, who have data and large language models in specific industry use cases with very short time to value, right? So in economic times like this, when Andy comes to a vendor and says, I want 3x ROI for so-and-so use case, but I want to prove it within the same budget cycle. I don't want to get to next financial year. You need hyper-focused, verticalized AI ready to go like a SaaS solution today. And so that it's going to give birth to a lot of new innovation, companies, startups, et cetera. So the next few years, from an AI standpoint, are truly, truly exciting.
No, I totally agree. I think also, speaking as one of the humans in the room, I think there's also a fair amount of concern about, in Hillary, how do we keep humans accretive in this?
Yeah.
How does this be a co-pilot as opposed to replacement?
I think it's a while before it's a replacement, but I'm really comfortable with this idea that we're all going to have a digital twin or a digital co-pilot. And my favorite example is Google Maps. It used to be before Google Maps, which I remember, you'd unfold your map when you didn't know the route. Now I turn on Google Maps all the time to optimize my route.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a really different way of thinking about a digital assistant that is spending time with me every day, whether I'm walking in a new city or driving around. And I think people will find this a really productive outcome. I think in the call center example, it's pretty amazing what can be done today. So the agent is getting an assist from a chat bot who's bringing sort of a qualified ticket to them or problem to them that they better understand before they're actually interacting with the customer. With Unifor's technology, there's actually an emotional measure of how the customer is responding to the interaction so that the agent can modulate their approach. I mean, that's probably...
So if they're coming in hot.
Yeah, if they're coming in hot, you know it,
Yeah,
and you're being given words and prompts that should diffuse. I'm sure Andy's thinking about this a lot. And that's a better job for that employee. Now, what will be replaced is rote work, right? Administrative work, filling in forms, checking to make sure forms are filled in. My first job at Blue Cross Blue Shield one summer where I had to file medical claims alphabetically paper. Somebody would measure a stack, a foot, and they'd hit a timer on a stopwatch. That was my job. That's gone, thankfully. So I think, and then what that allows the rest of us to do, so if you're that agent, you're a more skilled agent. I think if you're a leader, you have much better access to information.
Yeah.
And people ask me all the time, what do companies need to do better to be more successful? And I always say, introspect your own data. There's so many stories in your data. There's so much information in your data, but we just don't have a way to tap into it in an organized manner using natural language to get the answers that we want. And this is part of the solution.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, you think about just the customer care and the customer engagement business. It's about 480 billion in size. And you've got employees who hate their jobs with 100% turnover every year. 100%, that's hard to do. And you have companies spending a shitload of money that they don't love to spend on this. And you have customers, most importantly, who get annoyed, and it's a moment of churn. It's the moment of risk. So I think this is a perfect example of what Unifor is doing to solve a very big, very hairy problem through technology. So. Well, that's fair enough, but it's...
I certainly think so. I certainly think so.
Yeah, no, I think it's a huge opportunity. So I think we all need to find those sorts of opportunities because, I mean, they're out there. I think in your space, it's you've got companies with silos of data that have never really talked together. And to Hillary's point, it's like buckets of gold all spread around.
Channels, to be honest.
Yeah.
The silos on both sides, right? The data siloed and the channels that are siloed, and it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, it's a mess.
Yeah.
So the opportunity to streamline that.
Sorry if I can come in. There's some merit to spend a few minutes on. Andy just said there's a lot of point solutions in an enterprise like AT&T. I think that's truly coming of age. 2-3 years ago, all of these AI solutions were great POCs and pilots in different pockets of the enterprise, and that created these silos. For someone like Andy coming in and trying to create a data digitization AI strategy for an enterprise, you can't work with 70, 100 point solutions not talking to each other, because now you need to bring in a massive system integrator to integrate all of these. And the thing is, unlike old software, AI needs to have one data pipeline, one intelligence, one knowledge. So the emergence of platforms as opposed to point solutions, this is truly coming of age. And to your point of what's the future like, it's bright for AI, but I think it's brighter for platform players who can bring multiple capabilities on a single data and AI platform, where multiple experiences, multiple use cases can all be supported. The learning from one part of the business is shared in the other part of the business, et cetera. And so platform as opposed to point solution is going to be another big trend that we'll be talking about for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Hey, Andy, to that point, don't answer if you're not comfortable with it, but if you had to ballpark the number of companies that you work with that constitute this stack, can you give us a sense of, is this dozens or is it hundreds? Just kind of get it for everyone in the room to know exactly the complexity of what we're talking about.
Yeah, the joke is that AT&T has one license to everything with every company, but it's really more like 2 licenses, probably with the same company. We're solving that, but it really is. In the data and AI space, it was dozens. What we're doing with a target, architecture and really working across the company. Now it's more like less than 6 that really are in the core data and AI space. Now we're still using services that leverage data, that leverage AI, but that's not their core purpose, right? So I think it's very important to really have a streamlined approach to how you want to manage your data, how you want to manage your AI across the company.
To your message point,
yeah.
you've got to do that now.
Yeah, if you don't, you have the Wild West,
yeah.
right? You have, to your message point, you don't know what this silo has in it versus what that silo has in it.
Every recession, there's vendor consolidation, yes. Right, and stack consolidation. So either you shrink or you expand. It's a risk and an opportunity at the same time. I think for Action IQ, we feel very good about it because we really started the company from a platform perspective, so we think there's a ton of opportunity to consolidate potentially, dozens of vendors or use cases onto Action IQ. But it'll go one of the 2 ways for most vendors, I think. Either they're going to shrink down because they're a feature, not a company, they're a point solution, not a platform, or they're going to expand if they're a platform because finally people care enough to do something about all this complexity driven by cost. Right? They should have done it because it would make lives easier for employees, it would improve customer experience, but they will do it because of cost at the end of the day, because dollars talk, and I think it's going to be very exciting, as Umar said, the next 2 years to see how that's going to play out.
No question. Do you see different markets, different countries embracing this at different rates, or is U.S. leading the charge right now, or are there some other countries you'd like to expand into?
For us, we've been very focused on North America, which has been good and bad. It's the most competitive market by far. Like, if you can win the U.S. market, you can win any market. And expanding internationally has risk. Honestly, yep. I'm glad we're not in Europe right now, right? It's dealing with a lot of headwinds. There's a lot of economic, geopolitical pressure.
Well, not to mention, what I would call personally asinine efforts to constrain AI and the EU privacy laws. It's actually limiting their economic development.
The regulation is very tricky, very unpredictable. It creates a lot of risk.
Yeah.
And Europe is a very fragmented market. Like Asia, huge markets, right? But very, very fragmented. Usually, what we see, what I've seen in my career is that Europe and Asia will follow the US with a lag of a few years. I think now that has shrunk. It's they try to follow faster because of internet, social media, right? Zoom. It's just so much easier to catch up to the latest thing. I mean, ChatGPT was I think it took them like a month to release it in Europe or something like that, right? So, I mean, these things happen much more quickly these days.
Yeah.
But by far, the U.S. has been the best economy, right? If you look at the past 3 to 4 years, has been the most stable growth economy. That being said, you can't grow if you don't go international. So it's just a matter of time for us, as it is with everybody else.
That makes sense. How about you, Mesh? What market are you thinking about?
We do business in 20 different countries at this point. And I'd say, of course, US, it's easy to see largest economy in the world right now, the first in innovation. But at this point, AI driving automation in an enterprise is a theme that's cutting across the world. And it's a lot of it is driven by where the global economy is. The trouble in Europe is actually leading to large enterprises who would have moved, I would have expected them to move slower. You're getting large telecom companies, large banks in different parts of Europe, Germany, France, Spain, coming out with RFPs trying to move fast.
That's good.
To bring in these automation solutions because they don't have a choice. Economically, they're in a tough place. Labor costs are high, economy is not doing that well, inflation is high, automation is the only answer in front of them. So we're finding different parts of the world, Asia, especially in the kind of business Unifor is in, customer support, call centers, Philippines, India, Asia is a big part of the global call center supply chain. And so for those call centers who service the North American market or European market out of Asia, once again, they don't have a choice. They will either be out of business if they don't evolve themselves with this AI technology, or they can take a lead and disrupt their own cost structure, bring in AI and make a differentiated offering to their North American clients. So for us, being global is very ingrained in part of the business that we do, who our customer is. Of course, North America is close to 70% of our global revenue, but we are in 20 countries, and it's also a good hedge. You see when different shocks occur, when COVID happened, when inflation started to peak first in US and then Europe followed, and then Asia followed, you have a hedge naturally by being global, that you could have a soft quarter in US with Asia kind of lifting you, and a soft quarter in Asia can be made up by Europe or US. So being global has complexity. Tasso is 100% right. But beyond a certain scale, you can't grow your software business without being global.
By the way, are the models that are being trained in different countries applicable to others? Like, are you finding similar customer service behaviors country to country, or are they different culturally?
Well, yes and no. So we deal with spoken language and video emotions.
Yes.
That has a lot to do with the country, the language, the culture mix.
Yes.
And so anything to do with human communication around speech, text, or video, we have to do in-country models for that culture, for that population. But when it comes to a telecom company's billing data, or a bank looking at higher compliance using AI models, etc., those are pretty universal. So the enterprise AI models are pretty universal. Anything to do with language and culture are very for the country.
Perfect. No, thank you. That was very interesting. So, well, I think that just in deference to time, I think we're a couple minutes over, but I just wanted to thank you all very much for a good discussion, and I think most of you are around for the next few days, so hopefully anyone can find you and talk, other than Andy, who's going to be whisked out of here on a helicopter momentarily. But thank you all very much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Wes.
Thank you.